Get ready for hell. Regulators! Let's dance.
YoungGuns didn't play by Western rules. It rewrote them with rock guitars and pretty boys. Horses bolted, stars couldn't ride, and Tom Cruise? He hid in plain sight.
You're under arrest.
These are 10 wild facts about YoungGuns, and the bonus? Let's just say Charlie Sheen was the sane one. Saddle up. This Brat Pack ride gets chaotic fast. Number 1. Charlie Sheen couldn't ride a horse to save his life. You'd think the son of Martin Sheen could handle anything Hollywood threw at him. You'd be wrong. Charlie Sheen showed up to YoungGuns ready to be a cowboy, but his horse had other plans. Blaze, his assigned mount, took one look at Charlie and decided this was war. A hate-hate relationship, Sheen called it later. The horse was perfect during rehearsals, calm and cooperative. But the moment someone yelled action, Blaze transformed into a four-legged tornado. Charlie couldn't keep his balance, fell off repeatedly, and when the cameras rolled for the big shootout scene, his horse took off like a rocket. Charlie had absolutely no clue how to make it stop. The crew watched in horror as one of their stars disappeared into the New Mexico desert, bouncing in the saddle like a rag doll. They eventually got him back, but barely. Number 2. Tom Cruise made a secret cameo and nobody knew for decades. Picture this. The biggest movie star on the planet hiding behind a fake mustache, getting shot in a Western and nobody notices. That's exactly what happened in YoungGuns. Tom Cruise, fresh off Top Gun fame, was just visiting his buddy Emilio Estevez on set when director Christopher Kane had a wild idea. Why not throw him in the movie? So they slapped a cowboy hat on him, glued on some ridiculous sideburns, and handed him a gun. For exactly 3 seconds at the 1 minute, 39 minute, 18 seconds mark, Tom Cruise appears as one of Murphy's henchmen. Casey Siemaszko's character bursts out shooting, and boom! There goes Cruise, shot dead without saying a word. The craziest part? He's completely unrecognizable. Audiences watched this movie for years without realizing they'd seen Mission Impossible himself get gunned down in the Old West. It's probably the most expensive 3-second cameo in film history. Number 3. The fight scenes were 100% improvised chaos. Forget choreography. Forget stunt coordinators. Forget safety meetings. When it came time to film the fights in YoungGuns, director Christopher Kane told his young stars to just wing it. Every punch, every tackle, every moment of violence was completely made up on the spot. The actors would show up to set, get into character, and then basically beat the hell out of each other while the cameras rolled. No rehearsals, no planned moves, just pure adrenaline and testosterone fueling every scene. It was like watching a real bar fight, except with better lighting. The result? Some of the most authentic-looking brawls ever captured on film. When you see Billy the Kid throwing punches, that's Emilio Estevez actually throwing punches. When bodies hit the ground, those are real. Impacts. The bruises were real. The exhaustion was real. And somehow, nobody got seriously hurt. Barely. Number 4. Lou Diamond Phillips was terrified of heights. And it shows. During the famous peyote scene, Lou Diamond Phillips' character Chavez moves across the rocks with what looks like spiritual reverence and mystical grace. Audiences thought it was brilliant acting, a perfect portrayal of a man communing with ancient spirits. The truth? Phillips was scared out of his mind. The actor had a serious fear of heights, and those sacred rock formations were a lot higher than they looked on camera. Every slow, deliberate step wasn't method acting. It was pure terror. Phillips was genuinely freaked out by the elevation, gripping the rocks for dear life while trying to deliver his lines. The crew knew about his phobia but decided to roll with it anyway. They figured fear and spirituality looked pretty similar on camera, and they were right. What was supposed to be a mystical moment became one of the most memorable scenes in the film, all because Phillips was too scared to move any faster. Number 5. Kefir Sutherland's baby was born during filming, and they had to fake him. Right in the middle of shooting YoungGuns, Kefir Sutherland got the call every expectant father dreams of. His wife was in labor. Without hesitation, he dropped everything and rushed to be there for the birth of his child. Noble? Absolutely. Convenient for the film schedule? Not so much. The problem was they still had scenes to shoot. including a crucial sequence where the gang rides through a Native American village while high on peyote. So what did they do? They grabbed a stand-in, wrapped a bandana high around his face, and hoped nobody would notice it wasn't actually Sutherland. If you watch closely during that village scene, you can spot the fake Doc Scurlock. He's the one in front with his face completely covered, riding unusually stiff and avoiding any close-ups. Meanwhile, the real Sutherland was hundreds of miles away, holding his newborn and probably wondering if his career would survive missing a day of shooting. It did. Number 6. YoungGuns single-handedly launched a studio from nothing. Morgan Creek Productions was a nobody studio with zero track record when they decided to bet everything on a Brat Pack Western. YoungGuns wasn't just their first major film, it was their first film, period. Talk about rolling the dice on your debut. The studio scraped together an $11 million budget, which was considered modest even in 1988. They had no established relationships, no proven stars beyond the emerging Brat Pack, and no guarantee that audiences would show up for a Western in an era when the genre was considered dead. Then lightning struck. YoungGuns opened at number 1 and eventually grossed $45 million domestically, becoming the 22nd biggest hit of 1988. That single film transformed Morgan Creek from a startup into a legitimate player overnight. One movie, one massive gamble, one studio. Saved. The executives probably aged 10 years during opening weekend, but they came out the other side as Hollywood power players. Number 7. The cast partied like rock stars and tortured Diamond Phillips. Every night after filming, the YoungGuns cast would gather for what can only be described as epic jam sessions. These weren't quiet acoustic campfire sing-alongs. These were full-blown rock concerts with the biggest young stars in Hollywood acting like they were on tour. The ritual was simple: drink, play music, and when things got really wild, force Diamond Phillips to perform. Having just played Richie Valens in La Bamba, Phillips had become the designated entertainer. Once the alcohol stars would demand he sing La Bamba over and over again. Picture it: Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, and Kefir Sutherland, drunk off their asses in the New Mexico desert, surrounding Phillips and chanting for him to recreate his movie role. It was like having your own personal jukebox, except the jukebox was an actual movie star, and probably getting sick of the same song every single night. Number 8. The director's stepson is literally Superman. Here's a Hollywood connection that sounds like it was made up by a conspiracy theorist. Christopher Kane, the director of YoungGuns, is the stepfather of Dean Cain, who played Superman on television. That's right. The man who directed Billy the Kid raised the Man of Steel. Family dinners at the Cain household must have been surreal. On one side of the table, you've got the guy who made Westerns cool again. On the other, you've got Superman discussing his latest heroic adventures. The conversation probably went something like, "Pass the potatoes. And by the way, how was your day saving Metropolis?" Dean Cain didn't become Superman until the 1990s. But even during YoungGuns, Christopher probably knew his stepson was destined for something bigger than directing cowboys. Though, to be fair, both of them ended up making their mark on American pop culture. One with 6 shooters, the other with super strength. Not a bad legacy for one family. Number 9. Charlie Sheen was the only sane one on set. In a twist that would become hilariously ironic decades later, screenwriter John Fusco looked at the entire YoungGuns cast and declared Charlie Sheen the only sane one. Yes, that Charlie Sheen. The same man who would later become synonymous with tiger blood, goddesses, and winning in the most unhinged ways possible. But in 1988, Sheen was apparently the voice of reason among a group of wild young actors. While his co-stars were falling off horses, improvising fights, and partying until dawn, Charlie was the steady presence keeping everyone grounded. He was the moral compass of the group, the responsible one who showed up on time and knew his lines. The irony is almost too perfect. Here's a guy who would later make headlines for every possible reason except sanity, and he was once considered the most level-headed person on a movie set. Either Sheen's transformation was more dramatic than anyone imagined, or the rest of the YoungGuns cast was even wilder than we thought. Number 10. The movie saved the entire Western genre from extinction. By 1988, westerns were deader than a gunslinger at high noon. The genre had been killed off by the catastrophic failure of Heaven's Gate in 1980, which lost so much money that studios avoided anything with horses and cowboy hats like the plague. For nearly a decade, the western was considered box office poison. Then, Young Guns rode into town and changed everything. The film proved that audiences would still show up for cowboys, especially if those cowboys looked like members of the Brat Pack and came with a rock soundtrack. The movie's success opened the floodgates for the Western revival of the 1990s. Without Young Guns, there might not have been Dances with Wolves, Tombstone, or Unforgiven. Kevin Costner might never have gotten his Oscar, and Clint Eastwood might not have made his greatest Western. Young Guns proved you don't need to ride horses to save the West. Hit subscribe for more Hollywood chaos and behind-the-scenes insanity.